probably started about 14, 15 years ago. Jason and Abraham and I went to Austin, Texas. There was a company called Biogen, and they were wanting somebody to get committed to this. And Jason had a large recipient herd, lots of surrogates, and we were both kind of excited. And so we thought, let's try this deal, and that was 14 or 15 years ago. So, and that's where it all started.
A cloned horse who has the potential to save its species.
Born right here on the High Plains just a month ago. Thanks for joining us tonight after the game. I got to learn a little about the conservation efforts underway to save an ancient breed of horse and the role our community is playing in it. This little foal may be the key to saving his species. Thought to be the last truly wild horse breed, thousands of years old, currently endangered. They were nearly extinct in the early 1900s. About 12 horses were bred over time, creating around 2,000 Przewalskis that are now in existence. But there's only one Kurt. His genetic material comes from an entirely different source than those 12 horses, which saved the breed from extinction. That will help his species avoid a genetic bottleneck. That happens when inbreeding starts to cause health and reproductive issues with the animals. Kurt is an exact genetic twin of his father, Kuporovic, who lived for many years at the San Diego Zoo. The zoo froze his genetic material, making Kurt possible 40 years later.
And even though epigenetics kicks in and he's going to act a little different than the original, his offsprings will be just like out of the original, because the DNA that he's passing on is the exact same. And that's important. Man, he is ornery.
Oh, he is.
This scientific achievement may open the door to other conservation and restoration possibilities as well.
We hope that his sons, daughters, grandsons, etc. End up being distributed throughout other zoos, spreading his genetics, and eventually get returned to the wild in Mongolia and China to join those herds and help bring those genetics to those herds as well.
The surrogate mom you saw, by the way, there in the video, she's doing great. She's healthy and well. She treats Kurt just like she would a foal she's related to.
So there's some things about him that he's pretty aggressive. There are horses, little foals, but he was aggressive when he was a day or two old. And he doesn't tolerate much. And I think, and that might be the breed. And we've, at this clinic, we have quarter horses, we have bucking. No, bucking horses aren't broke. We have lots of them. And they're a little bit wild, but they're not like this one. And you saw, he's very dominant. It's not a wild type horse. This is a horse that I think gets his way out in the, out wherever they are. I think he's a dominant horse. And then Jason and I started cloning deer, and Biogen has always been our partner in this. And then we ended up being a team of WT that cloned the alpha and the gammas. And about a year and a half ago, we had a man that's retired came to Timber Creek from the San Diego Zoo and had been in discussions with Biogen. And Blake says, "What do you think about cloning a Przewalski?" And I thought, gosh, we haven't, they're an endangered species. They're supposedly the last wild horse on the earth. And I thought, gosh, that would fit in what Jason and I do. And so here we went. Everybody calls me Greg, or Dr. Greg, and I like that. So, everybody here. There's some people call me Doctor, and I just be called Greg. It probably started about 14, 15 years ago. Jason and Abraham and I went to Austin, Texas. There was a company called Biogen, and they were wanting somebody to get committed to this horse part of their. They've been doing cattle, and they've been doing pigs, and cloning them, yes. And then wanted someone, and Jason had a large recipient herd, lots of surrogates, and we were both kind of excited. And so we thought, let's try this deal, and that was 14 or 15 years ago. So, and that's where it all started. And Jason and I have been partners playing for a long time. And our partner was Vigen, and like I said, we went from there to, we've cloned quite a few horses, and then Jason and I started cloning deer, and Vigen has always been our partner in this. And then we ended up being a team of the WT that cloned the alpha and the gammas, and in the meantime, Jason and I cloned the very first mule deer. And so this came about a year and a half ago. We had a man that's retired came to Timber Creek from the San Diego Zoo and had been in discussions with Vigen and Blake and Sean being the scientist with Vigen. And Blake says, what do you think about, cloning I called him Przewalski. They call them pea horses. It's actually pronounced Przewalski. And I thought, gosh, we haven't, they're an endangered species. They're supposedly the last wild horse on the earth. And I thought, gosh, that would fit in what Jason and I do. And so the team had been, very successful along the way. And so here we went. And the technology is not any different than all the other clones. The animal's a bit different, but anyway, we put embryos in last year, and then here we have, we call him Gus, and they call him Kurt, and we're going to call him Kurt Gus. His middle name's Gus because the girls here, Kelsey and Araya, named him Gus. I have no idea why, but he's a Gus to me. We call him Gus when he gets really mad. So
his characteristics that make you say that? I've never been around a horse like this. What is it about him?
So there's some things about him that he's pretty aggressive. There are horses, little foals, but he was aggressive when he was a day or two old. And he doesn't tolerate much. And I think, and that might be the breed. And we've, at this clinic, we have quarter horses, we have bucking. Bucking horses aren't broke. We have lots of them. And they're a little bit wild, but they're not like this one. And you saw, he's very dominant. It's not a wild type horse. This is a horse that I think gets his way out in the, out wherever they are. I think he's a dominant horse. And his hair is different, his tail is different, his hooves are way different. That hoof wall capsule is a lot different than these little foals. It's really thick, and I've not been to Mongolia, but I have no idea. Obviously, this design is from hundreds of thousands of years of doing something at some place, and it's probably a great design for where they're from.
How many years old is this breed of horse?
I think it's, they tell me that the breed split about 35,000 years old, but this is a really old breed. And, some people say 500,000, and obviously to me thousands are, we live next to a canyon that has things that are thousands and millions, and, humans 10,000 years ago, I've always been intrigued with that, and so thousands to me is thousands, whether it's thousands or millions. It was a long time ago, and anyway, it's at least 35,000. So.
And then this breed was endangered, but not considered extinct. Even
No, I think in the early 30s they ended up with there were 12 animals, and there are. I think there have been species that have gotten down that low that are gone. They're no longer on the earth. So obviously, whoever did this, who started this trying to help this breed, they did a pretty good job. I think there's 2,000 animals. I think most of them are in zoos. There's some wild herds again in China and in Mongolia, but most of it's been in the zoo. And understand that if you have the same genetics, even if you share your genetics from each coast, you still are sharing the same genetics, which bottlenecks, your genetics. And that's the most important thing about this, about having little Kurt back, because this is a breed they're trying to bring back that's endangered, that if they kept going the right path, that he might have gone back to the other way, that you would have infertility, you would have some of the things, immune problems, some of the things that we have with inbreeding.
But this will...
This is absolutely, and I think they have several hundred Przewalskis frozen, and I think as they learn more about genetics and more about the power of genetics, that they can improve and share these, and they'll be I'm sure there's many more clones to come, and it will only help the breed. I think one of the things, Jackie, that's really important, they picked a male. Obviously, we could have picked a female. I had no part in picking, but they picked a male because that's how we spread genetics. If you saw my barn, 99% of our clones are male because that's the best and the easiest way to spread genetics. So I suppose if they find a very special female that has something, maybe that came, one of the last that came from the wild, which I know they have some that came out of the wild, I think probably that will happen. The only problem is you can only have one at a time with females, or you can have lots and lots of offspring with males. It would have to be a special female, and then maybe one of the male offspring out of that cross could be something that they could, two unrelated and have a new cross. We embryo transfer here, and we got twins. There's stuff that's going on here right now. We get twins, and we can get 10 embryos a year, but we embryo transfer them. I don't believe that in zoos, I think they probably aren't that much fun to handle. And so you have to palpate, you have to be able to do some things to get this extra, the reproductive part of it, to get the extra out. And I think you would have a hard time doing a female and having to embryo transfer. I don't think they would enjoy that very much. And so I think, if you could do that, I think if we did clone one, and I think if we messed with it enough that we could palpate it, and I think it could be done. But you're always going to have a limited number of offspring out of a female, where the sky's the limit on a male. I've been surrounded, these students all understand the technology and pretty much embrace it. So I've been around a group of people that understand what we're doing. And so I leave that to, there are people that are morally against anything, but your corona vaccine, you're going to get that vaccine, is a genetically engineered vaccine. So, to me, this is the exact same animal. This is an identical twin separated by 40 years. Okay, where they're going to have to understand we got to feed the earth. We have to do a lot of things, and science can help us. And so, if you're going to be morally against something, I wouldn't know how you could survive in this modern world. How are we going to feed the earth? How are we going to do all the things that we do? And this is just one more thing. Should we be wasting our money? I have no idea. I leave that to those people that are philosophers that think that, they can discuss. And I just am amazed every day. You go in there and look, and it makes you smile. That's good enough for me. He was born in England, and I think his mother came from Mongolia. And his mother he was born in England, then moved to the United States, I think in 78, I believe, something like that. And he died when he was 23, and he lived at the San Diego Zoo. And I think I have no idea, I'm assuming that they pulled this tissue at the San Diego Zoo, and that's where he came from. So that's what I know, and there's a lot more history. I think maybe Oliver could tell you exactly what he's as excited as we are, and his deal's genetics, so we get to play with him. That's the best part. So
what will happen with Gus? What's his
so I think what is going to happen, we'll wean him here, and I think they'll take him to the San Diego Zoo, and that'd be a great question for you to ask the zoo. When you have the first one in the world, sometimes you don't know what to do. And I think they'll have a plan. I'm sure they'll have a plan long before he ever gets there. He'll have to be raised with some other ones, and I don't think he's going to like anybody. He's pretty pig-headed, and he wants to do his own thing, and I don't know how they'll handle that. And because he has been around people, and that's not possible not to do, because the recip is a quarter horse, and she's broke, and she loves him, and they don't know the difference, that she's got 64 and he's got 66.
So that's the difference in the chromosomes. He has 66
yes.
chromosomes. And he's similar, Jason was saying this earlier, so that makes him similar to a mule.
Well, kind of, okay. So what we do is donkeys have 62, horses have 64, and he has 66. It's the only equine on the earth that has 66. For some reason, these can breed horses and have fertile offspring. When we breed a donkey to a horse, we end up with an odd number of chromosomes. And it's hard to have something fertile that has an odd number of chromosomes. And so, but for some reason, this, and I'm sure someone knows somewhere, that the reason why these things can have fertile offspring, it makes no sense, but because it's an odd number of chromosomes, but it's the way the chromosomes split, I'm sure. So that's why, you know, and he even though he looks like a little donkey, he's got 4 more chromosomes than donkeys do.
And he's only a month old.
And he's a month old, and so he doesn't grow very fast, tall-wise, but he really is filling out. I've never seen an adult close. I've seen him in the zoos. They tell me he's be around 650 pounds, and he'll be about 12 or 13 hands, which is not very tall. And anyway, that's a small little stout, and he is growing. There's no two ways about it. Very normal, and I think that, you know, for the people that follow you, Jackie, we need to understand that cloning is not, they are normal, okay? You can see that that's a normal animal, and that he's healthy, and he's full of energy, and anyway, and I think he'll do his job, his intended job, to spread some new genetics. So
It's so interesting. His personality is so.
yeah, it is, and I will tell you, it is different.
Yeah.
And everybody here that's been around all these horses all the time that works with me, they all come in with a little video every day, and they're always smiling with a story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty neat.
You said he's a little less fearful. than
He is
other
much
horses.
less
Yeah.
fearful, and all these babies are handled a lot, but he's different. It's a different fearful. He's not. He's very bold, and anyway, I'd hate to be his mother.
She seems to be doing okay. Your
She does
surrogate.
great.
So tell me about the surrogate that we. Who
So
carries
so
this.
the mother is a quarter horse that lived at Jason Abraham's. He's down here right now. Jason has lots and lots of recip mares, and the embryo went in her, and she's a quarter horse, and her DNA, she's got 64 chromosomes. Not that obviously it affects anything. That she was just a little mare that carried the baby, and she knows absolutely no different. That's not her baby. So.
And she's nursing him.
Oh yeah, from the day she's loved this baby from day one.
And no health problems.
No
for her?
health problems
It was
for
all
her.
pretty
No,
Normal.
everything was normal. I think it was born maybe 335 days. You know, and so no, I don't know that anyone's ever done this, much less a clone, but transferred a Przewalski embryo, even an embryo that wasn't. So I don't know, and this is the first clone, but I mean, I don't think anybody's ever done that. So.
Is that what's a normal gestation?
That's a normal gestation. 330 to 350 is normal. So it had a normal horse gestation. You know, when I do 2, that'll be 2. You know, so, but everything normal. The placenta came out. Everything was normal. So,
So fascinating.
and she had no idea what she'd had. So,
Yeah.
I have a question, and stick at Jackie whenever you answer, but will you guys make other gusses for other zoos, or one for
no.
y'all?
So Viagen does all that, okay, and I put them in, and Jason, we do it together with my crew, and we already have a different cell line, and I think we have 9 Przewalskis that we have the cell lines, okay, and so the cell line is used to get we take an oocyte, and that cell line is used to make the clones. They're 9. I guess there's 300. I think as they look to see the power of genetics and what they need, and that I don't think they thought this was possible, and so now they do know it's possible, and I think now they'll make a plan that, look, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we may get some other equine along the way doing this. So, it's a pretty powerful way to spread genetics.
Yeah.
So like I said, 40 years ago, that's pretty amazing. You know, that they did this tissue, and so what's the limit? I have no idea. Could be 100 years ago. Could be, you know. So that everybody that thinks that the frozen zoo was a joke, obviously this will tell them that this is for real, and you can see the power of having a frozen zoo. The power really of this is that these young people that get to touch and feel, and I'm an adjunct professor at WT and Texas A&M, And we're coming with part of a veterinary school up here, and 3 of the students that I have been part of this program. And like I said, Sydney and Elisa and Araya and Kelsey and little Jess have been very much, even Big Jess, been part of the program. I think that's where it makes this so that science is okay. You see, and you and I both know my generation is scared to death of technology, and I'm not sure why. Because we're going to need it really bad, especially with this pandemic. We better believe in science. And if we could get the politics out of it,